Well, thank you very much for joining me in this video. I want to talk to you today about right of first refusal. I got a call from one of my agents in this past week. He'd received a call from a member of the public who wanted to put the property on the market for sale. And the issue was that a member of the family was interested in buying this property, and the person who was selling it didn't have a problem selling it to them, but they wanted to establish fair market value. In their words, they weren't going to give it away. And it also may be a case of a marriage breakup. One of the spouses wants to buy the other out, and the other isn't opposed to selling it to them, but they certainly want to get full market value. And so the question is, how do you establish full market value? Well, there's a number of ways you can go at it. One of the ways you can arrange to have, 2 or 3 appraisals and then average those prices and sell it for that price. And the seller may say, well, we got 3 independent opinions of what the value is, and I can live with the average here. The buyer may say, well, no, because appraisals always come in high, otherwise banks would never give the financing. And so I think it's high, it should be discounted a little bit. So it isn't a guarantee that they're going to go along with it. In fact, the property next door to me, I've been an old gentleman there for years and years and years while I was living there. And I had tried to buy that property from him with the arrangement of renting it back to him, and I was never able to do so. And then one day, the old gentleman died. And so the estate was going to sell the property, and I contacted them and expressed my interest, and I wanted to buy the property. And I suggested, and this is the next thing I want to get into, I suggested a right of first refusal. I offered them $5,000 for a right of first refusal. And they felt that that wasn't enough. They're going to be dividing it among 4 people. So what's the use of $1,000 extra for each one? No, it might slow down the sale of the property. So they weren't prepared to do that. But they decided that they were going to get an appraisal. And I bought it for the appraised value. I think the appraised value was about, maybe I sound like a typical buyer, I think it was about $100,000 high. And the reason I say that is they wouldn't allow me to go in the property until after the offer was in place and accepted. Well, when I went in to have a look at the property, there was no flooring when you walked in. It was just plywood, raw wood going up the stairs. You go up to the second floor, it was a back split, up to the second floor, and there was 2 bedrooms with a connecting bathroom. You couldn't get into the bathroom off the hallway. You had to go through one of the bedrooms. And this older gentleman, he and his wife had split up in the middle of them deciding to renovate. He'd ripped everything out in the bathroom. He'd ripped the walls, it was right out to the studding. He just left it that way. He lost heart and left it that way. So that's the way I was buying it. And I think the appraisal was based on once the property was finished. They never did let me have a look at the appraisal, but I wanted to buy the property. It was next door to mine. There was room to put a double-car garage there, which is what I wanted next door. So I didn't have the option of buying 5 or 6 different properties. It was this property. But it was based on an appraisal. And I can identify with the idea that as a buyer, you may not feel comfortable with an appraisal. So possibly the better way, if the seller will accept it, is a right of first refusal. What the right of first refusal is the property goes on the market for sale, and if they receive a bona fide offer that's acceptable to them, then it's conditional upon being released from a right of first refusal, and the person who has that right of first refusal is given 24 or 48 hours to either match the offer or back out. And there's some things you need to know about the right of first refusal. One is it's predicated on the person who holds the right of first refusal knowing what the accepted offer is. And you'd say, well, that contravenes all kinds of privacy issues. Well, you always were allowed to do it on a right of first refusal. And of course, now under TRESA, when the seller can shop offers, it's no longer covered by the privacy issue anyway. The second thing that's really, really important with the right of first refusal is it should be registered on title. I think I shared this one time before. I was buying a property for a branch office, and it was a commercial property, and the fellow who owned it was a realtor. And so we negotiated an agreement, and I arranged commercial financing. And 2 days before closing, I got a call from the lawyer saying, Wayne, I've discovered there's a right of first refusal on this title. Well, I went to the agent seller, and he'd forgotten all about, oh, yeah, I did do that. Well, they went to the person holding the right of first refusal. He exercised his right. Well, the agent who was selling it didn't have any conditions. We had a firm offer. I had financing in place. There was some costs involved in getting out of that. And so he could have been in a lot of trouble, but it wouldn't have ever protected him at all if there hadn't been that right of first refusal registered on title. And then The other thing you need to know about a right of first refusal is even though you give a release, if you are the one holding right of first refusal, that release is revoked if the offer is changed substantially. It could be, for example, that the person who exercises the option backs out, and the person who's brought in the subsequent offer has it appraised or has it property has it inspected, and there's all kinds of deficiencies that come to light, and they renegotiate a substantial reduction in price. Well, then the person who has the right of first refusal is recontacted and want to know if they want to buy it at that price. So it isn't a full release, it's conditional on that. And I think that the seller probably is right in the sense that they could say it could hold up the sale of the property. We know when we put a sale of property offer on a property, it tends to slow down activity. Well, if you have on the listing that it's subject to right of first refusal, there's people that maybe wouldn't look at it, maybe wouldn't consider it. So there's some validity to that. And then the last thing I want to mention about a right of first refusal is you're the agent involved, make sure your commission's looked after. I mean, if you're listing a property and there's somebody in the wings who's contemplating buying it, make sure that the commission is going to be payable to you if that happens, whether it's shopped by the person who brings in the offer or whether it's shopped by the person who has the right of first refusal. I want to also mention that it's different than an option to purchase. A right of first refusal establishes price. An option to purchase based on a price, based on a fixed closing date. And often that would happen when you have, for example, somebody who's setting up a business and they're renting the building. They're not in a position to buy the building, but they want to buy the building once their business is established. And so they will establish a price, establish 1 year from now, and they'll do an option to purchase. Or it may be rent to own on a house, and the tenant wants to buy it, and perhaps a certain portion of his rent is applied as a down payment, and he's got an option to purchase. You're not establishing a price. The price is already established. It's quite different than a right of first refusal. While we're talking about little mechanisms, there's one more thing I'll throw in here while we're chatting, and that is when you have a business relationship and the one partner wants to buy the other partner out. I think partnerships are fragile. They don't last forever. I mean, marriages don't last forever in many, many cases. And so two people entering into business, their philosophies change, their approaches change, and one person wants to buy the other person out. Again, it's a problem of establishing price. And the way they do that is a shotgun buy-sell. And in the agreement, the corporation agreement between the two partners or the partnership agreement, they have a built-in shotgun buy-sell. How it works is this: the one party initiates an offer and extends it to the other partner. The other partner has the option of either accepting the offer or matching the offer and taking it over himself. And so it's kind of a nice way of keeping the people honest. You're not going to offer a really low price because that's what you end up getting rather than paying if he decides to exercise it himself. I had a friend who ran a RE/MAX office out in Western Canada, and he found that his partner was kind of lackadaisical, wasn't wanting to push and grow and so on. He thought he has lost interest. I want to buy him out. So he exercised his shotgun buy-sell, and to his shock and surprise, the partner bought him out, and he ended up with some cash but no business. And so that's the danger you've got with a shotgun buy-sell. But it does keep them honest, and it does provide a mechanism to close out the partnership without closing out the business. So all these things, whether it's a right of first refusal or whether it's a shotgun buy-sell, they can really be an advantage if you plan ahead, put it into place, and understand there's some liabilities and ramifications. Hope that makes sense. Thank you for investing your time. We'll talk to you again next week.